My doctor's located in Philadelphia, which is about an hour and a half from where I live, and the surgery was going to be performed at the Hahnemann Hospital, right across from our office. It's in Center City, Philly. And my husband actually saved vacation time to take off, not only for the day of surgery, but to be home with me for the rest of the week because we have 3 young children, and he wanted to be there to not only take care of me, but do all the stuff that I normally do with them and take care of the house. He was really great, really supportive. When I arrived, they checked me in. I, of course, got changed into a gown, and they gave me a pregnancy test. Once I was clear of that, they sat me down. I met the nurses. I met the anesthesiologist. My doctor came in. She kind of mapped everything out one more time, explained what they were going to do. And from there, it was a little bit of a waiting game. I was kind of an equal balance of nerves and calm. I remember feeling a lot like how I did before going into labor. You know, a lot of wondering what's going to happen, but also ready for this next step. When the time came, the anesthesiologist and nurse walked me to the OR. And when I stepped in the operating room, I couldn't contain my emotions anymore. It was like all of these years flashing before my eyes, all the struggles, all the pain, all the heartache. And I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, what if this doesn't work? What if it doesn't help me? What if I'm always in pain? What if? And my mind was just spiraling. And I started to cry. And the anesthesiologist was like an angel. She came over to me, she took my hand, and she told me that she was going to be by my side the whole time. I wouldn't be alone, and she would make sure that I was okay. And she probably was just saying that as part of her job, but it really helped me in that moment. I needed to hear that. I sort of needed a friend. So I calmed down. I got myself on the table, and my doctor kind of joked to me. She said, you see, Nazareth, this is, just like a normal checkup. And by that point, I was feeling it. And I remember popping my head up and going, yeah, except for the fact like 4 of you are standing at my vagina right now. And we all had a good laugh. And that was it. Lights out. Before I continue to talk about my experience with this surgery, I can't stress enough that this is my individual experience. Yours could be entirely different. So what I'm about to share is not to scare you, is not to place fear inside of you. I just want to be really transparent because I didn't have this information going into this surgery, and I feel like I wasn't as prepared as I could have been. When I woke up, I was in a recovery room, and I remember my immediate thought was like, wow, I feel great. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't even know I have a vagina right now. That didn't last very long. I would say within 10 minutes of waking up, the pain hit hard. They gave me Dilaudid to help with the pain. Truthfully, I don't know how much time passed, but it wasn't helping at all. The pain got worse. So they gave me another dose of Dilaudid. I don't think the nurses in the recovery room were really familiar with the procedure. They didn't even know what I had. When I said I had a vestibulectomy, they were like, what's that? So I don't know if you were to have this procedure in a facility where like this is all they do, your post-op care might be a little different. And I hope for your sake it is. So because I had to pee, they had me get out of bed, but I wasn't wearing any undergarments and I didn't have any ice on or anything. And blood started dripping down my legs, and they were having me walk across the room to go to the bathroom. And I remember saying to them, like, there's blood dripping on the floor. Like, I was really worried about it. And they're like, oh, we'll clean it up. I couldn't pee, but I thought I was going to go back to the bed to rest. They took me to a chair. I guess you could call it like a lazy boy or recliner. And looking back, I wish I would have spoken up and asked to rest longer in the bed because that sitting in a chair was just unfathomable. It was awful. I was in a lot of pain. It's a busy hospital, the Hahnemann Hospital, so I kind of got the impression they were really rushing me. They wanted me to get out of the recovery room, but I was just in another world. I was in such pain. I think it might have been a good 30 or 40 minutes before my husband was allowed to come back in. And he told me I had already been in recovery for about an hour prior to that. And I have a sensitive stomach, so between the anesthesia, between 2 doses of Dilaudid, I got really nauseous. I started throwing up. And of course, that was rough because of the pressure throwing up puts on your abdomen and your pelvic floor. So I was a bit of a hot mess. I just couldn't get comfortable. By the grace of God, there was a nurse who saw me and got another anesthesiologist, and they decided to give me Percocet, and that did kind of help take the edge off a little bit more. By this point, my husband said to me, let's just get you home. They got me a wheelchair. They gave me like a little bedpan thing to throw up in, and I wore a sundress that day just because they had recommended it. They said it would be a lot easier to get dressed after surgery, so I was thankful for that. And to this day, my husband and I kind of laugh because as the nurse was pushing me to the car, as I mentioned, the hospital is in Center City, Philly. So they're wheeling me out to the parking lot. It's a main street. There's traffic. There's people everywhere getting to work. And I'm coming out in my wheelchair with my dress kind of like blowing up and this bedpan, and I'm puking my guts out. And I can laugh about it now, but it was kind of embarrassing. It was really difficult to move right after the surgery. So even getting out of the car, walking up our steps to come to the door was difficult. I threw up again outside, and my poor neighbor comes out because she was worried, and my husband's saying, oh, she's fine. So, you know, I tell you these things to make you laugh. I mean, in hindsight, you can chuckle. It was an ordeal. One of the things I was sent home with was an antibacterial cream that had to be applied numerous times throughout the day. So once I got settled, my husband wanted to apply the cream for me, and I had a moment of panic because I knew he was going to have to look at my lady parts. And my husband was so incredible. He took my hand. He very lovingly told me just to take a deep breath and that we'd get through it together. There was a lot of bruising. I don't think everyone would have that. I do have sensitive skin, so the area towards the perineum and the buttock and inner thigh were bruised. A lot of swelling. It just looks super puffy. But surprisingly, it wasn't foreign looking. It didn't look like an alien, if that helps. I found the 3 to 4 to 5 days after surgery to be the most difficult. I would say it was similar to having a child where sitting's uncomfortable, going up steps is uncomfortable, going to the bathroom is uncomfortable. I would experience muscle spasms. Periodically, I just get really sharp pains. My doctor told me that that's pretty common. Sometimes it's just the nerves trying to resettle. By day 7, I would say the pain became more tolerable, and I also had my first post-op checkup. They gave me the Q-tip test, which I was dreading, but surprisingly, it went so well. When my doctor applied the Q-tips to the areas that normally would cause a searing pain immediately, I barely felt anything. I remember it stung a little bit, but it was like I could talk through it, and I had never had that before. Everything was healing okay, and I was told to continue with the sitz bath, with the antibacterial cream, to take it easy, stay off my feet as much as possible. 2 weeks after surgery, I went back for another visit. This time, they did do an internal exam. That was rough. 3 to 4 weeks after my surgery is when I had my first period. And that is when I noticed the biggest change. Normally when I'd get my period, it would cause a flare-up. I would feel such a heaviness and a throbbing sensation in the vulva, in the perineum. My skin would burn. And I was really scared to get my period post-surgery, but I didn't have any of that. The heaviness wasn't there. The throbbing wasn't there. There was no burning. And I was like, whoa, it was kind of my first taste of what was to come. 6 weeks post-op, I was given the okay to start using dilators, but I was not given the okay to have sexual intercourse. So my doctor told me to wait another 6 weeks. The first time I used my dilators, I noticed quite a bit of muscle tension. However, the scar tissue was gone, and it was smooth as butter. 3 months post-surgery, I was given a topical cream to try and help calm the nerves down because I was still experiencing sort of random spasms within the vaginal muscles. I also was given the okay to have sex. And the first time my husband and I did have sex after surgery, it was very painful and I was so disappointed. And if I can give you any advice, try and keep in mind that progress sometimes isn't straightforward. It's not always a linear path. So I was so focused on being pain-free that I lost sight of the fact that even though there was still a lot of muscular tension, there was no pain at the perineum and there was no burning. So I continued to work with my dilators. I went back to physical therapy. I got back to my yoga practice, did everything I could to continue to heal. And by 7 months, there was absolutely no more burning at all. Completely gone. And there was no pain or pressure at the perineum. So a lot of people ask me, did the surgery work? Yes and no. It depends what we're talking about. Did the surgery address the things that they set out to do? Absolutely. It removed the scar tissue at the perineum. It got rid of all of the nerve damage in the vestibule. It got rid of the nerve damage in the Bartholin's and Skene's glands. And there was even a little nerve damage on the right side of my vulva, so a portion of that was removed. So all of that went away. It didn't take care of the muscular tension, but that's not what a vestibulectomy is designed to do. The muscular tension was something separate. And quite honestly, it brought it to my attention in a new way that my physical therapist and I had not been conscious of before. We realized where the tension was coming from. It was mainly from the pubococcygeal muscle. That's a mouthful and I probably butchered it, but it's more towards the sits bones, as well as a lot of tension between the front and back of the pubic bone and tailbone. I think the surgery actually let me address the muscular tension a little bit more because now the rest of the pain was gone. During this entire process, I actually kept a journal of how I was feeling each day, the progress I would make. I was going through it the other day and I found a journal entry 1 year from the surgery. And I'd like to read it to you because it's important to see hope in this process. So here we go. Hopefully I don't get emotional. So this was June 22nd, 2017. It's now officially 1 year since my surgery. What a year it has been. Not at all what I expected. The road to healing and recovery has been non-linear and at times heartbreaking. But as I reflect back, one thing that really comes to mind is that my body is amazing. It's incredible, magnificent. It continues to endure, grow, stretch, expand, soften, and protect. Even when my thoughts are so negative and cruel, my body presses on in spite of myself. Did the surgery fix everything? Yes and no, but I think I've come to a place where I'm okay with that. Physical therapy has been amazing and has helped tremendously, and I feel hopeful that things will continue in that direction. The key is caring for my body, giving it compassion when it's needed, without judgment or without disappointment. Sex continues to be a hit or miss. Sometimes the pain is stronger than others. Truthfully, this is the hardest part to embrace, but I am blessed with such a loving partner who continues to show me patience and understanding. The biggest lesson seems to be that if I only focus on one form of success, I miss all of the subtle progress that is being made. So here's to my beautiful, strong, intelligent body. I am proud of it and I look forward to even more growth and healing. I almost didn't cry. This June will be 3 years since my surgery. So where am I at now? Between physical therapy, having the vestibulectomy, getting Botox injections, I am pain-free. Occasionally, I will have flare-ups. I do believe it's always going to be something that requires management on my part. The muscular tension can flare up if I'm under a lot of stress, if I haven't been moving or exercising regularly, or if I've maybe been eating poorly. Sex with my husband is much more pleasurable for the both of us now. I'm not in tears afterwards. It doesn't hurt at the entry. We can do different positions. Occasionally, again, if I'm having a flare-up, it might be a little uncomfortable, but it's nothing that I can't manage. Often I'll use a dilator prior to intercourse and I'm fine. I don't have to use Valium suppositories anymore. I don't have to use lidocaine afterwards. It's pretty amazing that I've gotten to this point. I can walk, I can stand, I can sit, I can be active again and feel like a human being. I feel love for my body and I'm proud of it. I'm proud of how far it's come. And the question we've all been waiting for is, how does it look? I'm so happy to report that it looks exactly the same. It does not look crazy. It does not look all cut up or butchered. And I'll share a funny story with you. Since having the surgery and when I go to get my annual exam, I had to tell my OBGYN about the procedure. And when she did the internal exam, she said, "Wow, they did a great job. You wouldn't even know anything was done." And I was sort of like, "Thank you." Made me feel really good. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for listening to this video, for watching this video. I know it got lengthy. It was so hard for me to keep this in a short time frame, but I just remember how badly I wanted to hear from a woman who had this procedure, and it's not out there. Not that many people talk about it. Know that it can get better. I promise you that. It's not an easy fix. Everyone's path is going to be different, but when you get the right team and when you incorporate the medical intervention with natural modalities and movement, you will see progress. I wish you happiness and continue healing, and remember that you're not